Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Friday, February 21st. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 496 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all the support for those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. Today, I want to break down some more free agency news here for the New York Jets, or rumors, predictions, whatever you want to call it this time of year. A lot of names, a lot of discussions with just a couple weeks away from the new league year and free agency opening. And today I wanted to break down an ESPN Plus article that had the top 50 free agents and listed the Jets as a best team fit for two top 50 free agents at two positions of need. So wanted that break that down today. As always, though, before we begin, we got to get into our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. Let's take a look at the Jets QB odds for week one, if not Tyrod Taylor. So this is not including Tyrod, any rookie QB at plus 250, Fields at plus 300, Russell Wilson plus 400, Darnold plus 500, and Kirk Cousins at plus 700. If you want to bet on who the next Jets QB will be, or any of the other sports betting action, check them out and use my link in the description of this video to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first three deposits up to $2,000. Also, our friends over at SeatGeek, if you're looking for any sporting event tickets or the best in entertainment, plays, concerts, shows, if you can buy a ticket for an event, SeatGeek has it. And if it's your first time using SeatGeek, use promo code BUBSONSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase and get yourself out to some awesome events. And also our friends over at Huga House, if you want any of their new selection of hats or sweatshirts along with their original hats, all going very fast. Check them out. And at checkout, use code BUBS for 15% off your purchase. And then you'll get 30% off your second hat when you use that code BUBS. So definitely check them out and get yourself some awesome Huga House swag. So here we go. Episode 496. Another day, another pod, talking all things New York Jets here on the channel. Appreciate the support. As always, it's been great to see so many of you tuning in, and I thank you so much. So as always, or as we kind of get into this here, I just wanted to break down what this is all about. So ESPN a couple weeks ago released their top 50 free agents here in 2025. And then a couple days ago, they followed up on that top 50 list, ranking which teams would be the best fit for each of those top 50 free agents. And the New York Jets were ranked as a best team fit for two of the top 50 free agents. We'll get into those guys now. And I wanted to break down these two players because they're two players that come at two very important positions of need here for the Jets in 2025. So we'll start with the first one. We'll start with the player that was the highest ranking out of these two, and that is Justin Reed, ranked number 43 out of 50. As you could see, best team fit New York Jets. Here's the write-up on Justin Reed before we take a little bit of a deeper dive. Under new coach Aaron Glenn, Reed could drop the hammer as a downhill tackler and interchangeable safety for the Jets. Thanks to his vision and field awareness, Reed has 261 tackles, 4 sacks, 3 interceptions, and 14 passes defended over 3 years with the Chiefs. The Jets' 17 forced turnovers tied for 20th last season. So they need playmakers. And I would totally be on board with a guy like Justin Reed. Now, before we actually break down Justin Reed himself and what he could bring to the table, it makes a lot of sense for the Jets from the perspective of you can make the argument the biggest position of need, the biggest, I guess, the most work that a position needs here in 2025, you could make the case could be safety. I mean, you need to completely gut and restart at the safety position here in 2025, including getting 2 new starters, right? Last season, Chuck Clark, 1-year deal, probably not going to be back, maybe, but if anything, it's depth. And Tony Adams, at depth at best, he is not a starting caliber safety. So you look at this Jets room, you're going to need 2 new safeties, starting safeties, and potentially some other depth options. So you're looking at most likely approaching this as signing somebody in free agency, drafting a safety with one of your first 3 picks in the draft. Maybe you go Malachi Starks round 1. I don't see it happening. We'll talk all about those possibilities. You go somebody day 2, day 3, whatever. You need to fix that position. And Justin Reed provides a lot of potential. This is a guy that's been in the league for 7 seasons, entering his 8th year coming up in 2025. You look at some of his numbers, or you look at kind of where he's been, his path, 4 seasons with Houston from 2018 to 2021, and has spent the last 3 years with the Chiefs, of course, making the Super Bowl in each of those 3 seasons, including winning the Super Bowl back-to-back in 2022. And, of course, in 2023, prior to losing to the Eagles this last year. And Reed's been one of the better safeties in the NFL. And I don't think it's any surprise that he's ranked as a top 50 free agent. My only question with Justin Reed and the New York Jets potentially coming together and getting an agreement and him becoming a Jet here in the next couple of weeks when free agency officially opens would be the contract. And that's what I'm curious about this new regime, is how much does Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji value the safety position? How much are they willing to put into the safety position? Because Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, they were kind of bargain shopping, pick up, an undrafted free agent out of Illinois and Tony Adams, try and develop him, 1-year contract in Chuck Clark. That was their way. Their big signing was, Jordan Whitehead. They even had the corpse of LaMarcus Joyner there for a little while. They never sold very high in the safety. And I'm curious to see how high Muji and Glenn are at that position. Because if they're high and they want to pay big and they want to spend a little bit more money than maybe some teams would, or maybe past Jets regimes would, Justin Reed could be that guy. He's coming off a 3-year, $31.5 million contract, which is about $10.5 million per year. That would probably be in the range of what he's going to want with the Jets, but he's worth it. He's a top safety in this league. He's a top safety in free agency, one of the top safeties, I should say. You look at some of his numbers, a lot of things stand out. This past season, 16 games played, 87 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 2 picks, 9 passes defended. You look at some of the PFF numbers here, a 76.9 overall grade. That ranked 20th out of 170 safeties. He had a 75.9 run defense grade. That ranked 31st out of 170 safeties. A 77.4 coverage grade. That ranked 12th out of 170 safeties. And you look at how those numbers differ from Jet safeties last year, it's pretty eye-opening. You just look at the run defense grade. He had a 75.9. Tony Adams, who was playing major snaps for this team until Woody Johnson benched him, according to the Athletic Bob show, which was crazy. Another crazy twist in what was a miserable season last year. But Tony Adams had a 59.4 run defense grade. To put that in perspective, Justin Reed was 31st. Tony Adams was 136th. Take a look at the coverage grade. Justin Reed was 12th. Chuck Clark, with a 45.1 coverage grade, was 145th in the NFL of 170 safeties who saw the field. That is terrible. That's a drastic difference in a positive direction for the New York Jets. And that write-up that I just gave you a couple minutes ago, read off here and showed on the screen, kind of details a lot of what he brings is what the Jets haven't had. He brings a very solid, good ability to stop the run. He's a good tackler. The Jets safeties last season, the Jets defense as a whole, especially in the secondary, had major problems tackling corners and safeties, right? Tony Adams had problems tackling. Chuck Clark. We know Sauce had a lot of problems tackling. There was many missed tackles. The Jets were one of the worst tackling teams in the NFL, which is one of the biggest reasons why they were getting gashed by the run so much and so often. And if you want to set that identity of stopping the run, being a good tackling team, having more coverage ability in the back end from a safety perspective, Justin Reid can come in here and provide that as one of the top safeties on the market. And a guy who's been around now for a while, entering his 8th season, veteran, will be 28, just turned 28 about a week ago now. So still in the prime of his career, former 3rd-round pick. And a guy who's seen winning, right? I think it is important too, just the off-the-field perspective, the locker room stuff. I think it's important for the Jets this free agency to try and get some guys here, and I'm sure Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji will look to do that, get veterans in here that have seen success before, where they can lead and understand what it takes to have success in this league. Justin Reid has been able to do that 2 of the last 3 years in Kansas City with the back-to-back titles. And heck, even just getting there this year. So I like the possibility of Reid. You throw out some other names. Of course, Justin Simmons could be a guy to look for just with the ties to Darren Muji in Denver. The biggest question is how high are the Jets willing to go on a safety? Because right now, you go off of per year AAV. Justin Reid's AAV is the highest among all safeties that are on the open market. And then it's Justin Simmons. So are the Jets, do they value safety where they realize it's such a hole and they see where this team's been the last couple years at the safety position, which has been really kind of average at best? Do they see it as, hey, let's go out and get one of these top guys? If they do, then Justin Reid could certainly be their guy. And I'd be on board with it. It would be a massive upgrade. So that's the first guy that was listed. The second player that was listed here, 48 out of the top 50, was Jawan Johnson, best team fit New York Jets. Here was the write-up. Yes, the Jets must figure out their quarterback situation this offseason, but regardless of who is throwing the ball, Johnson would be an upgrade over free agent Tyler Conklin. Johnson posted the best numbers of his career in 2024, catching 50 of 65 targets for 548 yards and 3 touchdowns. He can work the interior seams with his 6'4" frame, and he gets loose on underneath throws. The tight end position's interesting to see how the Jets approach it this offseason, because I could see a world where the Jets say to Tyler Conklin, look, you're a good locker room guy. You've been a solid player. He hasn't been a weakness. He hasn't been a problem for this team. He hasn't certainly been a strength. He's been solid. He's been okay. Last year was definitely disappointing for Tyler Conklin. I think, look, the offense as a whole last year, right? We went into the season and all expected, Tyler Conklin with a competent quarterback play from Aaron Rodgers should be able to take off, right? We know what all happened. Offense just in general didn't take off. But Conklin was really poor last year. I mean, he had his worst year in his 3 seasons as a Jet. The worst came last year. And it certainly diminishes his value a little bit. I could still see a world, though, where the Jets do bring back Conklin, but it's just going to be interesting to see how the Jets approach the tight end position, because they could just bring back Conklin and then draft somebody, or do they go out and sign a new veteran, then draft somebody? And I'm also curious, how high are they willing to draft somebody? Are you going more of the day 2, day 3 route where you bring a guy in, have him sit behind a veteran, have him be the number 2 behind a veteran on a 1 to 2 year cheap contract, and then a year or 2 from now, or you kind of whatever, right? Year 1, you kind of ease him into it. Next year, you potentially he starts and you find something, or are you willing to go all in on a guy like Tyler Warren in the first round? Right, we've heard that a lot. Where the Jets, do you take Warren at 7? I think there is a world where you trade back and can still get Warren at maybe 13 or 14, because I don't think there's much of a priority on Tyler Warren in the top 10. So it'll just be interesting to see how they approach it. But Jawan Johnson's certainly an intriguing name. Has been in the league now for 5 years, all of them with New Orleans. He'd be a solid veteran pickup. I'm not going to sit here and say Jawan Johnson rather is going to move the needle and is going to make this offense go from a 28th, 29th ranked offense in football to a top 10 offense. But if the Jets and Tanner Engstrand, who you expect to use the tight ends a lot this year, that's the way this offensive scheme is built, like a Jawan Johnson, it's got to open your eyes. It's got to make you think a little bit of a Jet fan that the possibility of this could be intriguing, right? Because the Jets are going to go into this season with a lot of tight end usage. You go into this season expecting the tight ends to play a massive role in Tanner Engstrand's offense. It is going to be a lot of ground and pound, tight ends. What they do in Detroit, Engstrand's going to try and emulate here in New York. And if they like Jawan Johnson, certainly a possibility to be a part of that. You know, you look at his numbers last year, 16 games played, 51 receptions, 72 targets, 449 yards, 8.8 yards per reception. Or I apologize. 17 games played, 50 receptions, 66 targets, 548 yards, 11 yards per reception, 3 touchdowns. Tyler Conklin's numbers last year, 51 receptions, 72 targets, 449 yards, 8.8 yards per completion target, and 4 touchdowns. So those are the numbers to compare the two guys. I don't think Jawan Johnson's that much of an upgrade over Tyler Conklin. Then again, though, Tyler Conklin is terrible as a run blocker. Jets need to be better run blocking. Jawan Johnson possibly better than Conklin. Is that certainly something the Jets should value and will value? You just look at the tight end room, though. Like, if it is Jawan Johnson, let's say, you're still going to need another draft, and then Ruckert as probably your 3, because Yabo is a free agent. Zach Kuntz don't do anything. Jeremy Ruckert and Zach Kuntz haven't provided anything. Yabo is a free agent. So, you know, you're still going to need that veteran, as I was mentioning earlier. Some of his PFF grades, 66.7 overall grade, 21st out of 37 tight ends. So slightly below average, 71.3 receiving grade, 16th out of 37. You look at Conklin, 58.8 overall grade, 34 out of 37 tight ends. And he's 61.4 receiving grade, 33 out of 37 tight ends. So you look at Conklin's PFF numbers, even just his regular stats, he was near the bottom of the NFL in tight ends that saw play time last year, which is certainly concerning. Then again, though, you look at Jawan Johnson's numbers, and they're certainly higher than Conklin's, but it's not like a drastic difference, right? Conklin had one of his worst years of his career last year. Jawan Johnson, a career year, not a crazy difference, you know? So I would be on board with Jawan Johnson, but I could still see a world where the Jets bring Conklin back on like a 1-year rental deal and have Tyler Warren or a rookie just sit behind him or be that number 2 and figure it out that way. But I am all for fresh blood. I'm all for gutting the position and completely bringing in new faces and new talent and some different types of tight ends than what they've had at the position now. And this notion, too, that tight ends are worthless is completely ridiculous. You look at some of the best teams in the NFL, just look at the offense that Tanner Engstrand is coming from. And please, then come back to me and tell me that tight ends don't mean anything. You don't know much about football if you think that tight ends are useless in the NFL today, because they're not. They're not. And if the Jets view Jawan Johnson as better, you're all for it. If they don't, and you bring back Conklin on a 1-year rental, and then you get an exciting rookie behind him, I could certainly see that being a possibility as well. But those are the two options. Justin Reed, Jawan Johnson. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you like either of these players? Do you think either of these players the Jets can/will sign? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I like Justin Reed a lot. I like Jawan Johnson. But I do think the Jets could maybe look down other avenues, could maybe kind of just stick with what they have at that position and add another rookie in there where you're adding maybe a Tyler Warren and having Conklin come back. Let's say either way, though, you're going to need to add a veteran and then somebody else to kind of have that barrier between Rucker, Kuntz, two guys that don't provide anything right now, two guys that don't have really a future here. It's a position that's a need. And if Jawan Johnson fits that, I could certainly see that. If they feel that's Conklin, I could certainly see that. It'll be interesting to see how they approach it with the draft as well. Do they go cheap veteran and go all in for Warren? So many different ways. Safety a little bit more clear. You know for a fact they're going to need to spend on safety. They're going to need to. What is interesting is how much are they willing to spend, but they're going to need to spend more than this previous regime. You can't cheap this safety class or this safety room. Can't do that. We learned that the hard way last season. So let me know what you think. We'll have a lot more content coming your way. And until next time, JETS, 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 Jets.